Could you just say and spell your name?
Yeah. Julie Rowe, Julierowe.
And how would you describe your relationship with Chad? Former friend, current friend, business acquaintance?
Former friend and business acquaintance. He was my publisher.
So why are you here today, Julie?
Because part of my mission that I agreed to premortally before I came to Earth was to warn and testify of a lot of things, including exposing darkness on every level, layer, realm, and dimension. And I see darkness in this story. It's very hard to talk about, so I appreciate the time you're giving. And I hope people understand that this emotion is because I care deeply about the people involved in it. Everyone from Chad and his family, Lori and her family, even though I never met Lori, and all the parties involved, including millions of people who have been exposed to this energy as a result of all the news that's gone out on it. It's affected millions of people on both sides of the veil. And I made premortal covenants to testify of truth at all costs and to let people know that what has happened with Chad and Lori is not okay.
For those not familiar with the words premortal, you mean before this life on
Before
Earth.
this life. We lived in spirit realm. I have memory of it. I had a near-death experience in 2004. It's one of several that I've had. And that's how I know Chad. He published my first 5 books.
Yeah, talk about how you met Chad and Tammy. Did you seek them out because you had this
No.
experience? How did that work?
No. So I was shown in dream and vision, and during my near-death experience, I was told in 2004, I was on the other side of the veil for 2.5 days. I was essentially in a comatose state.
So you were dead?
I was not dead. I was still alive, but I was asleep. According to the hospital records, I was in a comatose
What happened?
state. My heart was still beating.
Were you in an accident or?
No, I was later diagnosed with Lyme disease and Epstein-Barr, but I didn't have doctor's confirmation on that for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
So just very, very sick.
Very sick in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Your spirit left your body.
Yeah.
And you were in the spirit world.
Yeah, for 2.5 days.
And that's what happened there.
Well, maybe I should refer people to my book, New Revolution, where I talk about it. You can go to Amazon. It's called New Revolution. But basically, I was given a tour of different parts of heaven and spirit realms and different worlds or degrees of glory, if you will, and was shown some of my past lives as well as things in my current life that had happened when I was younger. Had a life review. They took me through what you call the window of heaven, that's how I had access to some of these portals and things like that. And then they reminded me of some of the promises I made to my friends and family, including spirit family, that I would help prepare them for some of the things coming to the earth, including war in the United States.
Okay, so you came back, your spirit came back,
Right.
And then you met Chad, or?
Yeah, so I didn't meet Chad and Tammy until the summer of 2014. Chad first contacted me in February of 2014. I was on the Vallow website. I really only got on the Dreams and Vision part. I had a friend that was my Relief Society president when I was in the hospital as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was living in Overland Park, Kansas, and her brother-in-law happened to be my home teacher as well. So their family played an integral part in helping me and my family when I got really sick. And she was only one of a few people that knew that I had had this near-death experience for a long time. And when I came back and I started to wake up and work through what had happened to me and the trauma and all that, I started to open up to her more and told her about the dreams that I'd had, the night visions, the memories I had of what they'd shown me. And, I would cry to her about, some of the heartache that I saw coming to the world. And so that was in 2004 in September. And then I had another near-death experience a month later in October. And so she knew about that, and she told me about a vow. I think it was probably in 2006 or 7. And I got on under my own name because I'd never been on an online forum. And then I posted just a few things, but I quickly realized that to be in my own name would not be good because of how people treat you online. And so I quit posting. And then several years later, in 2013, I was prompted again to sign up again. There's a long break there where I wasn't on there at all. Mm-hmm. And I never really looked at anything else on there. I knew it was like a prepper site where you could find things about solar and Dutch oven cooking and stuff, you know.
Food storage.
Yeah. And I, because of what I saw coming, I've always been into food storage because I was raised that way in the church and my family, but I'm not like an extreme prepper, right? I don't consider myself a prepper. In fact, that term bugs me because I think it's like too extreme. But because I was feeling very lonely about what I was experiencing, it was nice to read other people's dreams and visions who had been shown similar things. And I had additional witnesses. And so this friend of mine, you know, knew that. And she gave me a couple of books as well, Sarah Monet's book and some other books, you know, of people that had had experiences. And that really helped me early on. So then in 2013, so when I had my near-death experience, I was told that I was to share my story through a book and speaking publicly in about what they said 9 Earth years. And I was laughing at the 9 Earth years because my husband's like, if you say 9 Earth years, you sound like a weirdo. And I said, well, that's what they said to me because there's a lot of other planets in the galaxy. And this is planet Earth. And they said planet Earth. And so I then was told in October of 2013, I had a severe adversarial attack. That's just kind of what I experienced since I woke up from my near-death experience.
What does that mean?
For me, it's very physical. In fact, last night, because of this interview, I was up half the night just being physically attacked, very physical.
Like physically? Like
yes.
By things you see?
By demons and unclean spirits, yes.
And they're attacking you?
I can sometimes see them. Usually I feel them, and they'll choke me, sit on me, squeeze me, punch me, yeah.
There will be people that hear that and think you're crazy.
Yes, they will, but people already think I'm crazy, so they can think what they want.
Yeah, so, and I'm not discounting your experience at all. There will be people watching that saying, how does that happen to her and nobody else?
Right, it does happen to other people, they just don't talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. So you have your near-death experience. Chad reaches out to you through the AVAL website when you get back on.
In February of 14.
February of 2014, and says, we should write a book together?
Right, well, in October 14, I had this attack, and I was actually at a restaurant, and I had been having dreams about the books again, and the spirit had been telling me it's coming soon. And I would ask, you know, in my mind as I talked to the Lord, well, when? Because it's been about 9 years. And they just said, sometime after the first of the year, he will contact you. You don't need to worry about it. I wasn't given his name. I could just see him in my mind's eye.
Chad.
And I was told, you'll know, and he'll find you. Don't worry about it. So I didn't ever do anything to try to publish my book or anything. But when I had this, that had been going on for a couple of days. When I had this attack, I was at a restaurant, and I went into the restroom because it got so severe. I was just trying to get away from the group that I was with so I could kind of work through the energy that was happening. And I ended up very, very sick, throwing up in the restroom, and it got worse, and I ended up basically collapsing on the floor of the restroom bathroom. And that's when I heard very clearly, have no fear. And I said, why does this keep happening to me? And what I heard was an audible voice that said, don't ask why, ask what, and ask how. What are you to learn, and how are you to serve? And at that moment, I said that in my thoughts, and I felt this swishing energy, and I felt this light come in, and the demon or whoever it was that had me around the neck, I felt it release, and I had some interesting visuals about light warriors that came in, and there was basically a battle going on right there in that bathroom.
Between light and dark?
Yes, yeah. And with the gifts that I have, because of my veil being thin, I don't see everything, but often they will show me quite a bit, and it's pretty sci-fi. It's pretty crazy stuff. The veil really is a blessing for people. So anyway, that's the background. So I knew it was coming, I just didn't know when. And then he private messaged me. I was prompted to post more about my dreams and visions and started posting about my near death. And then he found me, and in February he messaged me, private message, and said, I'm an author and publisher, would you be interested in doing a book? And I saw his picture, and he looked different than what I had in my mind's eye. They showed me like a different look, because his picture was earlier, so actually he looked like what I saw when I met him in the summer of 14. But I wrote my first book in 6 weeks. So we started it in March. I gave him the first draft in 3 weeks. I went to Grand Canyon with my family for spring break for 5 days. He did initial edits, and it went to press 3 weeks later after that. And so it went to press in April of 14 and came out early to mid-May of 14. I didn't meet Tammy and their kids and Chad in person until July of 14.
So later
in
that summer.
Provo, because they were living in Springville. I met them in Provo.
What was Chad like? What was his family like?
Very nice. Socially introverts, all of them. Very, very kind of quiet people. The contrast in energy was kind of crazy, because my kids and I, and my husband we're pretty talkative, loud people, you know. So our family cultures were like opposite. I would say honestly they're socially awkward, but really nice people. Really, really nice people.
And from what I understand, your first book did pretty well.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many copies we sold. Thousands.
Enough to write more.
Yeah, I had my second book that went to press. So on that trip where I met them in person, after my book went to press, it had only been out a month. And one of my guardian angels, well, basically I say the Lord, but really, sometimes it's the Lord's voice himself, and sometimes he sends messengers like through my guardian angels or ministering angels. And I remember my book had been out 3 weeks, and I had told everyone I'm only doing one book because that's all they told me, and I had no desire to write anymore. And after I did a radio show on Mills Crenshaw and told everybody that, literally the next day I got a message from the other side of the veil, and they're like, hey, there's another book. And I was like, are you kidding me? And so I took a lot of flack for that, because I told everybody I'm only doing one book, and then I said, oh, I have another one,
Yeah.
So people are like, oh, she just wants to be famous. I'm like, no. See, this is how it goes with communication. They only tell you what you need to know when you need to know it to get to the next level of your progression or your place in your plan or to help or whatever. And I wouldn't have been open to it anyway, right? And so then I opened my heart, and I was like, okay, Lord, if you want me to do another one, I will. And that book came out October 15th. It took me 8 weeks to write.
That same year?
The same year.
And you worked with Chad on that one. Now, how many books did you write with him?
Well, I did I have to add them up again. I
Sure.
think it's 5. A Greater Tomorrow, The Time Is Now, From Tragedy to Destiny, my biography, which was Rising Above the Flames, and then we did podcast books. And we started to transcribe the podcast on Julie Rowe Show, and we got one of those out. Chad didn't have the funding. We'd only sold, maybe 1,000 of them, and we just decided it wasn't worth putting them in print. We just did the ebooks on them.
What happened with your relationship with Chad?
So it was a gradual drifting apart. We finished publishing my book in the summer of 2017. And then we did the podcast book shortly after that. It was kind of going on simultaneously. And we didn't have any more books. And I had been shown in vision and told at that time that the actual title of my biography that would come out and go more worldwide, or at least in the United States, was going to be a different title. It was called Gifted for a Purpose. And Chad turned that title down. Actually, Eric Smith came up with that title, and I was told very clearly, this is the book, this is the title, and there are certain things in it. Chad wouldn't include certain things in the biography. They always did the design covers, but the first 2 books I saw in vision, and then he found the pictures on the internet and presented them to me, and I said, yeah, that's it. So there were some really good experiences on a spiritual level with him. With Rising Above the Flames, I didn't have the experience. He saw it in vision, he picked it out. Tammy designed it, presented it to me, and I really didn't care for it. It's got this big eye on it. But the Spirit said, this is what it's supposed to be right now. just let this go out. And then later on, I had envisioned what the other title of the book would be and the other cover. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I always knew, like, this isn't the real biography, you know? But it took a year and a half to write that. Eric Smith helped write it. Eric's the one that does the podcast with me on Julie Rocha and Eyes Open. So I don't know where I'm going with
So
that.
you worked with Tammy. I mean, if she was designing it,
Yeah.
and did you have a good relationship with her?
Oh, Tammy and I were great friends, yeah. I wasn't as close to her as I was Chad because Chad worked on the writing side with me and the editing. I only talked to Tammy on the phone maybe half a dozen times. And we would text here and there, but again, she's an introvert. She doesn't text her. I was chalked up to that. She was pretty shy. When I came to Springville, because they moved to Rexburg in 2015, and Chad called me up right after he had the vision of moving to Rexburg. I know that whole story and how that all happened. And I can vouch that how he wrote it in his book is what he told me before he told anybody else.
What did he tell you? He called you one day and said...
He was still in Idaho with their family vacation and called me and he said, I was just at the gas station and I got this visual and I heard, you know, on the other side of the Vallow that I'd be moving to Rexburg soon. And I was like, really? I said, so how's Tammy gonna feel about that? And he goes, well, she's not gonna like it. I mean, they're both from Springville, Utah, born and raised. They met in Springville, they fell in love in Springville, you know. And he was pretty confident that in time, when it was right, the Spirit would work upon her heart, and if they were supposed to move, they would move. And that is what happened. She struggled with it, but I talked personally to Tammy about it, and she had her own witness from the Spirit. She wasn't just doing what Chad said when they went to Idaho.
She felt that it was right to go too.
Oh yeah, she was very in tune. She didn't have the same gifts that Chad had, but she has one of the best hearts of anybody I ever met, and very, very, very kind. Very genuine, not a fake person.
What would you say Chad's gifts are? Being a visionary?
He's visionary. He has some gift of hearing. And he, you know, I know he's going to watch this. He's not going to like that I say this, and he's probably sitting out there. Truthfully, as I got to know him, I realized that I had more gifts, that mine were more expansive, that my gift of hearing was sharper.
You mean gift of hearing the Spirit?
Yes, gift of hearing the Spirit. So there's different hearing gifts and sight gifts, different types of vision. Sometimes people can see it in their mind's eye. Sometimes they actually see it with their eyes. Sometimes it's more like on the crown of the head. It just depends on what the visionary gift is. And I have all of those. Chad, the way he described it to me was he would look down like when he was writing a manuscript, and he could kind of see it in his mind's eye, like through his third eye, is how he described it to me, which is different than how it works for me. I usually just see it, and I can see multiple dimensions.
So if he is a visionary, why didn't he foresee all of everything that's happened?
Right. I can't answer that for Chad, but I can tell how it works for me.
Did you foresee any of this?
I heard that, how do I explain that? I did not foresee, and I still have not seen exactly what happened to Tammy and the kids. I'm being blocked from that. The Lord tells me that is for my protection and that I am being unveiled more. So we're all veiled, and there's not a single visionary on the planet that sees everything, right? Because you still have a veil. Even people that have these amazing gifts that seem like, you know, they can see, you can't. That's not how it works. You get bits and pieces. You might get a flash. You might get a scene. Every now and then it looks like a video, but there's always pieces missing. And then you, based on your own belief system, which can often be false beliefs, you put the pieces together to make sense of what you're seeing. And it's the same thing with the hearing gifts, right? And you have to learn to discern, is this coming from the light side? Is this coming from the dark side? Because they can imitate. Satan has a counterfeit for everything. And he has his spirits that pretend to be the Lord, or to pretend to be Joseph Smith, or pretend to be whoever, right? And they're very good at mimicking. And after being and reigning on this planet for thousands of years, they have mastered body language, energy. They can, you know, there's this false belief that the adversary can't read your thoughts. Well, they can read thought energy, and depending on how smart that that individual is, because they have their ranks, right, of their, they have their, I guess you could call them their minions or their entry-level infantry type soldiers, and then they have their lieutenants and captains and generals that are more skilled at rising the ranks, and they're taught and they're schooled just like we have on the light side with our light warriors. And so depending on who you're listening to or what your gifts are and what your belief system is or false belief, or if you have impure heart energy, which every one of us has because we live in a telestial world and we have imperfect DNA that's been passed down, and there's a lot of factors there. When we have any kind of impure energy like lust or pride or ego or arrogance or vain ambition, which is, and I'm not casting stones at Chad, this is literally what the Lord's told me, that is what his downfall was, is that he was looking through dirty filters. And the adversary can implant false visions and can implant false thought energy and make you think that it's a light warrior or the Lord, or sometimes you think it's actually your own voice. And it goes both ways with light or dark. Does that make sense?
Didn't you say that you had a vision that the kids were safe?
So yes, but I've been unveiled on some more of that.
Tell me about that.
I was told the kids are safe. I saw them in a room, in a house, with this beautiful furniture. There was like this couch and there's like these wicker chairs, super bright, big windows. Through the window, I could see palm trees and ferns and beautiful tropical. And then out the window, it was like a beachfront property, and I could see the beach, the sand. And then they showed me a scene where the kids were at the beach, and Tylee was with them. And there were other adults in the room. I could sense them and feel them, but they didn't show me who they actually were. Well, then they showed me Chad and Lori in Hawaii at the beach. The room I saw was different. I would see them at a resort, and then I saw them in some other room, but I couldn't tell exactly if they're in the same room. So I made an assumption, fully admit, that I assumed they were all together. Okay? Well, it wasn't until, I don't know how long after, that 3 or 4 weeks or something after I came out with my first podcast, and I said, the kids are safe, and I see them in Hawaii, and they're all at the beach or whatever, that then I started learning some more things. And the Spirit said, you need to like listen better. You need to, there's some other things you need to learn here. And then the scene changed, and I saw Chad and Lori still at the beach, and mostly at the resort, but they were going different places. I saw them on the island of Lanai, and I was told they were there just a couple of days. And I still saw the kids at the beach, but I never actually saw them together. And then I saw the kids in another room, and I started picking up. So at first, the emotions, because I'm an empath, on both sides of the veil, I can sense energy and the feelings and emotions of people. And I was contrasting it because Tammy, for 3 weeks, was overjoyed and happy, and I saw a big reunion for her with all her ancestors, and they were so happy to have her home. And that was for about 3 weeks while I was seeing the kids in a good place. And Charles was in this darker dimension, and he was depressed, he was upset, he felt betrayed, he felt guilty and shame and all these negative emotions that I often see when people are in a spirit prison type situation. And he was sitting on this old wooden chair in a corner with no lights on. There was just a dim light coming through, and he had his hands like this and just not in a good place, and very concerned about his kids, concerned about what had happened to him, concerned about Lori, lots of negative emotion. And I would talk to Charles and try to work through it with him, and he was not ready to talk. It was like he was in a state of shock about what was going on, and he was trying to process, because we're the same people on the other side of the veil when we go in spirit realm as we are here. Well, then time goes on, and Alex dies, and I see Alex, and he's in an even darker dimension, way darker than Charles. And so I'm trying to make sense of what I'm seeing and the energy as the story is unfolding, as more evidence is coming out. And the emotions I felt from Alex, when I would try to talk to Alex, Alex wouldn't even talk to me. He was so angry, and he wanted nothing to do with me. He just was so angry. And he felt betrayal, a lot of anger, some hatred, frustration, lots of shame. So I was trying to make sense of that. In the meantime, more stuff is coming out. All that was starting to happen about the time you did your interview in Hawaii where the cops found them for the first time. It's about the time frame. In that amount of time, things shifted like that. And in the meantime, I'm talking to the kids' spirits, and they feel abandonment, betrayal, heartache, sadness, sorrow, forlorn, all these emotions. Abandonment was coming up huge, 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 huge. And I would cry myself to sleep. I would talk to the Lord, and I'd ask him, what do you want me to do with this information? Am I seeing this correctly? How can I help? Is there more you can tell me? And I'm asking these questions. And I can see, and I see this in spirit realm a lot, but I can see there are veils even in spirit realm, and there's doors and access points and gateways, and you actually have to progress into the light. Sometimes you have to have an escort that lets you in, like if you go from like what they call spirit paradise, prison to paradise, there's actual doors and portals, and they will escort you in, or you have to have permission to come in. And people can try to sneak in, but they don't make it very far. And the light can go down to the dark. The dark dimensions can't come to the light, because just from a scientific standpoint, those energies can't coexist, you know? Well, the kids were then in this, it was a different room, it was a different house. And I could see one of the bedrooms, most of the time there were no lights on, and I could see Tylee laying in a twin bed. And she was just kind of like curled up in a fetal position, crying, and the lights were off. Sometimes I could see a dim light. I don't know, it looked to me like a moonlight, but I think what they were communicating was that, you know, that she was in a different place spiritually, and I'm just trying to make sense of it. Well, then JJ, it went from Tylee watching JJ to some other adults watching JJ, and I could see them, and I could see a woman, but I couldn't see her face. I could just see like the outline of her spirit. And then I started going, wait a minute, are they in spirit realm? Did I get this wrong?
So you didn't know they were dead or alive?
At that point I couldn't, and then the Spirit, the Lord, started explaining to me more about the veils in spirit realm, and how they are veiled as well from seeing sometimes what happened on earth. And he said, Tammy was veiled for 3 weeks from what happened to her. And we unveiled her last night, and she now is able to see what's happening on earth with her kids. And with Chad, she now knows that Chad married Lori very quickly. She now knows that her kids are suffering. But the first 3 weeks, they just were like, oh, they're doing good, and she's over here having a good time reuniting with her family. And then it was time for her to shift and kind of get back to, you know, helping with her kids. And the way it's explained to me is that part of her mission, now that she's on the other side, is to help her kids on this side to work as a ministering angel. And then they would show her some of the news reports, because even in spirit realm, they can watch what's going on earth if they have permission, right? And Lucifer will show them his versions, right? And the Lord will show the true version of what's going on. So even this interview, there are people from the other side of the veil watching to find out what I'm going to say, what you're going to say, and this will cause shifts in people's energy, either to encourage them to go further into the light and to get further truth, no matter where they are, whether they're on the earth or spirit realm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. One of the things Melanie Gibbs said is that Chad would often, and even Lori sometimes would like predict something was going to happen or have a vision.
Yeah.
But then when it didn't, it would change because of people's agency. Couldn't you make that same argument with anybody that says they're a visionary that, all right, the earthquake didn't happen, it's been pushed off. So then doesn't that somewhat invalidate the original vision?
Well, here's the thing, how it works again, they've explained to me, because I've been criticized for that very thing, more than Chad, because I'm the one that first came out with the term Wasatch Wake Up.
Which is
the Lord
earthquake.
Himself gave me the term the Wasatch Wake Up years ago. So anybody on the internet or anywhere else that refers to Wasatch Wake Up, that was given to me. I coined that because I was given that. I asked earlier, there will still be a Wasatch Wake Up. The timing is what shifts, but also circumstances can because of agency, but that does not necessarily invalidate the vision. It just means you can also have false visions. Okay, so very clear, Chad was getting false visions. And maybe, we can do another interview if you want some time or whatever, and I could go into why I know that, because he shared a lot with me, and that was, you go back to when we started to go the other way. Our paths diverged because of more and more of what he was sharing with me that I didn't agree with, or that I saw differently, or that I heard differently. And the Lord would say, don't tell him what you know. Just listen, serve as a witness for both sides of the veil, and flush the energy, because this is going to come full circle later. And I didn't even know what that meant. I just knew I was to continue my friendship with him, continue to work with him, and find out essentially what exactly he was involved in and what he believed. And even when I came out and said in the first interview I did on the news, where I came out so strongly and I said, listen, I know Chad Daybell, he's a friend, and he would not hurt those kids, and he would not hurt Tammy, okay? Because I could not fathom in my mind that the Chad I knew would do that. The Lord had made it very clear. I had seen a vision and was told for over a year that Chad was having an affair with Lori. He did not know I knew that. I never told him that. But I knew it, and I got confirmation when I saw the news, right? I had no proof of it. I was just going strictly on what the Lord had shown me. But to go from going, okay, I know a guy who, messed up and had an affair, to killed his wife and killed some kids, like I couldn't make that leap.
Can you now? What do you think now? What happened to Tammy and the kids?
I don't know. I just know it hurts. And I know that Tammy continues to ask me to speak whatever truth I do know. And I know that when I look at Lori and Chad's countenances, their auric layers, I can see auric colors, their entire countenance have changed. I see hard hearts. I see gray. I see a lack of light in Chad's eyes. They're dulled over. I feel their pain, but when I key into the emotions and when I know what Chad has done to me on a spirit level in the last year, I don't trust him one bit. He has betrayed me and Tammy, really Tammy the most, and his kids, and lots of friends and acquaintances, everyone that read his books, everyone he, published. He's betrayed a lot of people. And when I have asked, and I'm not saying this, people are going to say I'm judgmental. I don't mean it like that. But when I see this and I ask sincere questions of the Lord of how did I not see this coming, because you asked, could I see it coming? Mm-hmm. They prepared me the best you can be prepared. I had glimpses, I had insights. I did not have a lot of the big pieces to the puzzle. The day I found out Tammy died, I had a vision and I saw myself on the news. And I was told and I heard Chad's going to be accused of murdering Tammy. I did not know anything about the kids, but I was told a month before she died, Chad will be accused of murdering Tammy. And the day that she died, when Emma told me that her dad said they weren't going to do an autopsy, I had a physical reaction. I felt like my heart just sunk. And the energy inside of me, I'm very sensitive energy, just went right to the pit of my stomach. And I actually got physically sick, nauseous, and almost threw up. I cried, also because of some of the other things Emma said, because she said what she was most afraid of was that her dad was going to get remarried. And then the Lord started telling me some of the stuff Chad had said to his kids, some of the stuff he'd said to Lori.
Were they lies?
I think Chad believed them, but they are lies.
But you think he truly believes them?
I think he really does. But they are lies.
And we were talking off camera a minute ago that you haven't reached out to him because you don't feel that it's right to do that right now?
I reached out after the funeral.
Oh, you did? Okay.
The first 3 weeks, I texted him. I offered him some free sessions to help him through his grief.
Did he respond?
No acknowledgement. No.
And meanwhile,
I told him I was sorry. I waited until Monday after she died because I didn't want to, on the first few days, on the day of the funeral. I had talked to him on the phone 3 weeks before that, and the Tuesday before she died, he texted me because he had told me 3 weeks before she died that he would contact me after potato harvest because Tammy was off of work. They were going to have some time together as a family, and he was going to get back to work after potato harvest. And I said, okay, that's great. I have so much to do. I work a lot. I'm busy with my family. And so that's what we decided is sometime after potato harvest. Well, I was out of town in Idaho and Utah for a work trip the week she died, and I had to go to San Diego. I was actually teaching a group energy class in San Diego the day she died. But I was prompted on the Tuesday before she died to send him a text. I can't remember if he texted me and see if I could talk or if he tried to call. And I never gave him my schedule, but that day I was prompted to tell him the basics. And I said, I'm in San Diego Saturday. I'll be back Sunday. I'll be in the Provo area Monday. And then I'll be flying out Wednesday because my son Ethan is coming home from his mission. And I look back on that now because the funeral was in Springville on Monday night, and I was staying 10 minutes up the road. And I never heard a word from Chad or any of the family. The day I talked to Emma, I talked to her at 1:30 Utah time, 12:30 San Diego time on the 19th. She sobbed her eyes out. I talked to her for 40 minutes. I basically gave her a session. And I had a visual of Chad right when she said, what I'm most afraid of at the end of that 40 minutes is my dad getting remarried. And I said, why is that? And she said, because he's talked to me, I know about multiple probations, and I have a problem with polygamy. I'm not okay with polygamy. And that was a huge red flag for me because I was like, okay, multiple probations is a true doctrine, but whatever he's told his kids and whatever he believes is false doctrine because it's not polygamy. And I didn't know what he was planning or what he'd been involved in, but I had visuals of him communicating with a lot of women through text or phone call. I knew for sure he'd had a relationship with Lori, but I didn't know beyond that, with other women. So it was like a really big red flag for me. And right when I started to talk to Emma about it, I had a visual of Chad, and he came over and grabbed the phone out of Emma's hand. And she hurried and said, I love you, I gotta go, my dad's here. Click. And then I saw him tell all of his kids, especially Emma, do not respond to Julie Rowe's text, her emails, or her phone calls. And I've never talked to any of them since.
There have been people online, I'm sure you've seen, that have thought there was something more to your relationship with Chad. Mm-hmm. Was there anything more than just a professional relationship and a friendship over the years?
It was always professional until October of 18, when he, as far as I'm concerned, tried to groom me, just like he did Lori.
Tried to groom you said?
Yes. And my husband's aware of it. In fact, it was about a year and a half, I look back, when my husband started saying, are you sure you can trust Chad? And I'd go, yeah, I can trust Chad. I'd had so many spiritual experiences with him related to the books that I did trust him. I'd always get this hesitation, and I'd ask questions of the Lord, and I'd say, with certain things, because he was always trying to get me to use my gifts about things I saw in the future. And I'd usually just kind of listen or go, I don't see that. Every once in a while I'd say, yeah, I still see the earthquake. He'd try to pin a date down on it, and I'd go, it could be this spring, but,
One of the interesting things another author told me the other day is that she had a near-death experience. She said Chad never talked about his with her. And after we posted that, many people said that maybe they think Chad saw this author getting attention and you getting a lot of attention, that maybe he came up with his own near-death experience.
Yeah. No, I know he legitimately had them. They were very quick. They were not extensive like mine or Suzanne Freeman's. They were a matter of a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes at the most. The one where he, was knocked off the cliff, mm-hmm. I heard firsthand from him and from Tammy. Tammy was there to witness it.
Okay.
And also some of his other family members. And then he had another one where he was attacked from the dark side and his spirit left his body and floated up in their house in Rexburg. And all of his kids were there and his wife, and they kind of had to bring him back. And he called me the day after it happened, and he was very emotional. Kind of did a session for him to help work through that trauma. And the next time I went to Rexburg, I was at their house with Chad and Tammy sitting on the couch. Again, affectionate. He had his arm around her leg, arm around her, holding hands the whole time. And the kids, at least four of their 5 kids were there talking about it. And they were like, it was so crazy. You know, like he was just out and we thought he was dead.
Okay, so you had heard him. You don't think he made him up?
I know he didn't make him up.
Do you think he's been deceived?
I know he's been deceived.
And Lori as well?
Yes. And I was told very clearly from the very beginning, basically to have nothing to do with Lori, Zalema, Melanie, and Melanie. They tried to contact me a couple different times, tried to get my phone number. I was just told, again, because I did see some stuff, and I do have the gift of looking into the past if they show it to me, not everything. And I just saw convoluted, messy energy. I was told that there was abuse energy for all of them. I just was like, And I don't give my phone number out. I deal with security issues since 2014. Very careful with who I let have access to me. And
yeah, why do you have security?
Since going public with my story, I've just had death threats and a lot of security issues. Creepy men. I've called the cabal out, and they've threatened me 3 or 4 times. So,
are you worried for your life?
No.
No?
I used to be. Well, I say it last night when I was under attack and I felt like they were going to kill me. I cried to my security on the phone who was helping me through it, and I said, I don't want to die. And then this peace came over me, and it was, you're not going to die. We've already told you you're not going to die. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not worried. You know, Chad has gone around, and some of the sources that have talked to me have told me that he went around at least from January of 2019 telling people that I had gone dark. Right around the time that I called him out on Lori and his communications with others, and on his patriarchal energy and how he had been treating me and how I felt used by him and all that, and how I wasn't okay with some of the things he was involved in. And that's when he cut me off. That's the real reason we had a falling out, is I called him out on it, and he didn't like it. And I have proof of that. I've got it in text conversation I've actually sent to Justin Lum. So, and I was told specifically by my angels to document that and save it for my records. Chad has no idea. Yeah.
He might now.
He does now.
Yeah.
He's listened. So, and that's about the time I know for sure he went around telling people I was dark, when he was sending those lists to Lori saying Charles was dark and all that. So then I'm like, okay, well, so am I next on the hit list? Maybe.
There were a lot of people, that were worried.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about energy healing. Some have said that it's dangerous.
Yeah, some people say multiple probations is dangerous, and it's not. What's dangerous is when people misuse their spiritual gifts, and when they can't tell the difference between what a true doctrine is and a false doctrine, or they mix it. The true doctrine of multiple probations is a pure doctrine of light. But when you have unclean spirits or demons who are whispering things to people, and they have their own lust energy, vain ambition, pride or arrogance or ego, or other and jealousy energies, an impure heart, they get convoluted with that energy, and then they twist and turn the doctrine. The actual pure doctrine is light. So reincarnation is a false doctrine because there's a counterfeit. There's counterfeits to the multiple probations, and one of the most disgusting energies I've seen is what Chad did with the knowledge he'd been given. He was given this much knowledge, and he tried to make it into this much knowledge, and most of this is gross.
So you do these energy conferences, energy healing conferences, and people come, and you're able to, spend hours.
I teach them.
You teach them. What is it?
So I do different types of energy. You can do cranial sacral. You can, massage therapists do energy work. Physical therapists do energy work. When you listen to uplifting music, you're giving yourself an energy session. If people listen to my podcast, they're designed to help people clear energy. When I talk on the phone, I can see the energy of the system. I can tell if they have health issues, mental illness, porn addictions, drug addictions. I can both hear it or see it based on gifts I have. Most people don't have the same gifts, but that's how I do it. And I do more of a talk through, I don't tell people's future because I think that crosses boundaries. And again, the future is fluid based on agency, but there are certain things that are kind of set that we agree to primordially that will happen at some time if we stay on our path. But the way they describe it to me is there's like plan A, B, C, D, E, and F based on agency, And if anybody's ever studied the Mandela effect, people can look into Mandela effect when it comes to agency, things like that. So with the energy work, like if I were to give you a session and you're on the phone, because most of my clients are out of state or out of the country, I would be on the phone in my car or my house or wherever, and then you give me permission to connect to your energy and to see what I need to see or hear, and then I would ask you questions. I'd basically say, okay, what would you like to work on today? And spirit to spirit, you might tell me, you might not want to say it out loud, but I generally try to get the client to bring it to consciousness. It clears energy faster. And then we might talk through, the abuse you had when you were 6, or marriage situation you're going through, or, the porn problem, or whatever it might be, to bring that energy to the surface of consciousness. And then we would actively work, and I would say, okay, listen, these are the energies that are coming up, the trapped emotions, and we start addressing things on an emotional level. So the same thing when people go to counseling, it's just that they're going to different type of schooling. So when I'm talking to them, I'm kind of like a counselor. That's kind of,
I see, that makes sense. So this is your job, this is your profession?
Yes.
I see. So are you giving God's will to them through you?
No, I don't do that. I don't know what other energy workers do. But I fought for agency primordially. I fight for it every day. And there are certain boundaries that are established by the Lord that you just don't cross when, in terms of agency. So just because I see it.
Just for the people that say, if she is the visionary, why does she charge money?
Just like a counselor does.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, there are different types of energy workers. And the occult does abscond this. The occult version of light work or light energy work is witchcraft, warlords, Wiccans. That's the dark version of energy work. There's a light version to everything and a dark version. And there is a gray area because some people, again, misuse that power, misuse their gifts, or they're deceived. But the way I liken it, because I said this, to Nate Sunderland when I was talking about how I want to do this interview, I said, here's the thing. Some people have said this is dangerous doctrine with multiple patients. Energy work is dangerous. So do we throw the baby out with the bathwater? If I know the gospel's true, and I believe, for instance, that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has some of the keys of restoration, but I also know that there are stake presidents and bishops, or even members of the 70s, who are involved in satanic ritual abuse or other forms of assault, rape, or molestation. Do I just not go to church anymore? Do I just not go talk to my bishop or my stake president? Do I just say I want nothing to do with any of that because this is corrupt in this form? You see what I'm saying? And I say no to that. And I've been excommunicated for teaching and doing the energy work and doing my podcasts and my books because they do not like the work I'm doing. But I also know there's a higher purpose in why I was excommunicated that I saw and was told in my near-death experience and my vision. So I'm at peace with it, even though I don't like how it was. But you don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater and say it's all bad. Anytime I hear someone say that's dangerous, there's fear energy at the core, and you have to get to the root emotion of why the fear energy is there. What was the trauma that happened to them that created the fear energy so that they just don't want anything to do with whatever that is? You know what I'm saying?
Well, and there's a lot of people that look at Chad and Lori and think, I don't want anything to do with what that is, as you just said.
And I agree, I don't either.
Yeah, but they might lump you in with them,
And
or
they
other
are.
people associated with
Right.
this type of preppers,
Right.
conferences, events, things like that, where
Right.
wouldn't it just be best to just, go
Avoid the whole thing?
Yeah, avoid the whole thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
go to church on Sunday,
Yeah.
do your personal study at home. If you have these visions and spiritual prophecies, keep them to yourself and your family, or you end up with 2 missing kids, dead spouse, dead brother.
Right. Okay, the contrast to that is that's what some people really should and could do, because that's maybe what they're ready for. Maybe that's what they agreed to primordially, what they are wanting in their spiritual progression. But there are others so we have the plan of salvation, we have the plan of exaltation. And why anybody would need to know, for instance, about their past lives, I can't answer that for them. I just know I've had memories of it my whole life. I had 6 NDEs. Every time I come back, they say, okay, this is part of your mission to testify of this truth. I cannot deny it. I have the emotions that go with it. I have the visuals that go with it. I have been shown over and over again. And in order for me to clear my own energy, I sometimes have to acknowledge that I went through a trauma 600 years ago in another past life before the pain in my gut will go away. And people have all this energy manifesting. If you have spiritual pain, mental pain, emotional pain, it will often manifest as physical pain in the body. And if you are having physical symptoms, that's your first clue you have energy that needs to be cleared. Something in your energy field that's distorted, whether it's a miasm that's been passed down through the family line or something else. And so when somebody says dangerous anything, you have to get what's the root cause. Well, the adversary uses fear to keep us from progressing. He did it primordially, he does it now. And so you can. Some people want to just avoid it. And that's okay. That's a good coping strategy a lot of the time. We kind of come in and out of that, and even in the grief process to waking up. But it was Lucifer in the garden who said, I see your eyes are not yet opened. And so waking up, opening our eyes, is a very painful process when we open up to truth. We have to acknowledge that we've been betrayed on this planet. We have to acknowledge that we're living in a matrix. We have to acknowledge that there are lies and false beliefs and post-hypnotic suggestions everywhere we go. And until we can admit to ourselves, and I would say even out loud to other people, that we don't know everything and that there is more for us to learn, and we can push through the fear and say, even if it hurts, I will get to the root cause of why I feel abandonment, why I feel betrayed, why I feel angry, why I feel hurtful, why I feel discouraged, why I feel despair, why I feel depressed, why I have abuse energy. You have to get, and that's what I do for my clients is, let's get to the core, right? Did this start when you were 3? Did this start in primordial world? And for a lot of us, I would actually say anybody that's on the planet, we carry spiritual baggage from a very, very real premortal war that is still going on around us in multiple dimensions in spirit realm. Not just when we entered into the fall with Lucifer, but when there were the Elohim wars and Lucifer fell, as did many of the others that are on his council that were all members of Elohim that turned dark. And just by me saying that, it will trigger people emotionally, and we will have people sobbing, having no idea what I just said and why I said it. And then it will start to surface, they will start to wake up, they will start to deal with the pain in their heart that they brought with them to the earth, that then attracted other energy, because that energy, every emotion is at a vibration, and it attracts that same vibration. So if you come to the earth with betrayal, and you find yourself in a relationship, like, again, with family members or coworkers or spouses or whatever, and you're like, why do I always end up in abusive relationships? How come I was cheated on 3 times? Like, why are these patterns following me? And then that gets into patterns. Something else that's been discussed is patterns and what patterns are of the light, of the Lord versus not. And I will just say that Melanie's description of the patterns is partially complete. There are more patterns that she's not aware of. So there is truth in what she said, but it's incomplete truth.
Do you miss your membership in the church?
Yes, kind of. I am...
When were you excommunicated?
April 9th of 2019.
2019, so a year ago.
Mm-hmm. A little over a year ago, yeah. It still hurts. I love the Lord with all of my heart. I love Father. I love Mother. I love my family name. I will do anything for them. I know that I was called premortally to do this work, that I'm still being called to do it, and that I accepted, and that it comes at cost. I also know that in the book of Isaiah, it prophesies of the last days, the book of Revelations, 2nd and 3rd Nephi, and the book of Mormon, book of Joel, of where we are in the last days prior to the Lord's return. And I witness and testify that he is coming in my lifetime. I don't know when. And that I am just supposed to help prepare the way for that. And to prepare my family. And it's very painful what the church has done to me and my family. It is, and I've been through some hard things, but it is the most painful thing I have ever been through and am going through.
Do you still go?
Huh?
Do you still go to meetings?
Well, no, they got COVID.
Well, you're right.
No, I have home
Pre-March.
church with my family every Sunday.
You still
Yes.
read the scriptures? Do you still
Yes.
believe the Book of Mormon?
Yes.
And do you believe the 12 apostles and the first presidency?
I know that we've been infiltrated. I know that
Infiltrated meaning some?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You believe some of the leadership of the church?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I know that the Lord is still working to guide them. And I see us going into apostasy in the church. I see the church going into apostasy. This is what pains me. This is what pains me the most. They can excommunicate me, but it pains me to see them aligning with global elites in the UN. It pains me to see that they're teaching some false doctrines. But again, it's all been prophesied. It's all been planned for. I saw this, almost 16 years ago. It was spelled out to me. I saw it very clearly. I've seen it over and over and over in day and night vision to prepare me and hopefully to help prepare other people that this is what's happening. And this is why, in part, we will have the tribulations and why there is and will be a cleansing and a sifting. So I see the bigger picture, at least some of it, not all of it, right? Pieces of it, but enough to give context and to still have hope. That is why I named my first book A Greater Tomorrow, because we have amazing days on this planet. My message is not doomsday, far from it. My message is we're going to go through some really hard times, harder than we've ever had on this planet, but when we rise above it and we get through it, this planet is going to be gorgeous. It's going to be so light and so bright and so glorious that people can't even imagine. And they've given me the conscious of that energy. And it's the same with my excommunication, right? That degree of betrayal, I get the opposite of that in the light, the comfort from the Spirit and the calm and the level of peace in my heart. They can falsely accuse me all day long, whether it's the church or people online or people I've met or whatever, right? That betrayal, I'm pretty used to betrayal energy now. But when they affect the people that I love, which are my friends and family on both sides of the veil, that are being lied to, that are being manipulated or coerced or controlled or abused in any form of fashion, no matter what the institution or organization is, on either side of the veil in any dimension, that is when war is declared in my heart. And the best way the light side combats the enemy is to spread love and light. And the Lord continues to tell me that my greatest weapon is my heart. And as much as Lucifer wants to try to turn my heart dark by people like Chad Daybell, I refuse to let it happen, because the Lord continues to give me peace and tell me that my heart is my greatest weapon. And what that means is, when I love and I continue to serve and give, then I can help fulfill part of my mission and my promises to my brothers and sisters that I made eons ago, which is to open and heal the hearts of the children of men. That is my mission. I'm supposed to warn and testify and all that, right? Do the energy work. But it really at the core is to help open and heal the hearts of the children of men, so that people, as we go into the dispensation of the gathering of Israel, people can have their hearts opened and softened to be receptive to the Lord's gospel, so they can go into the light, whatever degree that is. So that when I see Charles, and hopefully he's listening, he can know it's going to be okay. Have faith. The truth is going to come out about how you died. The truth is going to come out about what you did to try to help Lori. The truth is also going to come out about how he mistreated her sometimes. And if he can push through his fear on that, then he'll move more into the light, right? And if Lori and Chad can humble themselves and look at where they went wrong or where they are going wrong and how they can correct their own energy, and hopefully then that has a ripple effect. And it really starts at the heart. And that's no different for Alex, right? If he is guilty of murder, well, we know he has killed someone, and that's got grievous consequences. But even those who murder or commit suicide, there is hope. It is not over. There is still repentance. Does that make sense? And that's a false doctrine that's been taught. That, if you commit suicide or you murder, you're just damned forever. That's a lie. Lucifer would like you to think that, because those are some of the guys he recruits the most. He gets them to the other side of the veil, and they pounce, and they shame, and then they're like, it's over for you, man. Christ will never accept you. You're never going to be able to go to the light, let alone the celestial kingdom, so you might as well serve us. You can rise in our ranks. And it's a load of crap. It's just not true.
What do you say to Chad?
I say, I love you, Chad, and I'm really, really sorry. I never want to hurt anyone. Just by speaking out in the last several months, it hurts people. But he's hurt a lot of people, and I hope that he will hear me, that I'm not doing this from a place of vindictiveness. And Tammy has asked me to try to wake him up, has asked me to speak the truth. The Lord has asked me. I want him to know that he has betrayed Tammy terribly, whether he thinks she came to him or not and told him to marry Lori. That was a false spirit. He is deceived. He has been deceived. If he can clear out his own impure heart energy and humble himself and get back to at least some of the man that I believe I met in 2014, that was more humble. I don't see humility now. I see, like I said, a hard heart, walls. There's more I see about curse energy and some attacks that have been very physical that have come directly from Lori and Chad as a result of me speaking out. And I want him to know that I'm aware of those, and that the only way I've been able to clear that when I have been physically attacked and had visuals of him involved with some of those in Lucifer's counsel, the only way it's cleared is when I have acknowledged to those practitioners who are helping me through that, and I've actually said out loud, I see Chad Daybell wearing this. I see Chad Daybell doing this. And then the energy will clear from my system, the attack will stop. And Chad knows what I'm talking about. And whether it was a conscious thing he did or not, some of it has been conscious and some of it's been in spirit realm that he might not be fully conscious of in this body. But at the root of it, repentance, acknowledging selfishness, acknowledging lust energy, acknowledging that he's been deceived, acknowledging that he is hurt and is hurting his children, acknowledging that he's made mistakes and that he is not the Davidic servant. He and Lori are not the Davidic couple or in the Davidic presidency. They never have been and they never will be. They have been deceived and used by Lucifer to further Lucifer's plans. And he does not have a mission or a role working with the 144,000. They are not translated. They are not on track for that. What they are on track for right now, unless they repent and stop what they've done and correct the energy, is a path of continued destruction. And it's not too late for them or anybody else within the sound of my voice to see the light.
Julie Rowe, thank you.
I just want to say a few things. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. I appreciate the work of those working on behalf of the light side wherever they are. For the light warriors, for the ministering angels and the guardian angels who literally put their bodies on the line every day for those of us in mortality. I love all of you. I love our family. And when I mean the family, I mean the entire human family, wherever they are, because we have a lot of worlds involved, right? This is a big universe. And we are in the winding up scenes in the last days, and Christ will come. And he'll do it in my life. I am 48 in January. And I just love people. And I will expose darkness at all cost. If people think I'm crazy, that's okay, but I would ask that they would take anything I have said or anything I will say or anything I've written and just ask the Lord. Don't take my word for it. Take it to the Lord and ask him. And if it's making them uncomfortable or if it's hurting them, get to that root core emotion of why they feel that way, why they're not ready to hear it. And then instead of just outright rejecting, just put it on a shelf. And you can keep it on the shelf for 100 years. And when you're ready to bring it down and address it again, do it. There's no rush. This is an eternal plan with an infinite atonement. And I respect agency, and I just hope that we can show more love and kindness to the people that are around us, wherever they may be. Sending my love out to everybody.
Thank you, Julie.